Greetings and welcome. My name is the Reverend Maggie Burbank Yunoki, and I am privileged to serve this congregation as minister and also to our beloved one, Vasu Dev. I am honored to be here with each of you and to serve as your officiant for this difficult yet sacred ceremony. Barbara and Vasu's church welcomes you into this sacred space where we have gathered on this beautiful and warm day to express our love, our respect, and our grief for the life of our friend, our teacher, our beloved one, Dr. Vasu Dev. We come to honor him and to give support to his beloved family and to offer one another a place for our broken hearts to rest and to heal a bit. We come to share in storytelling and memory making. We come in just a few more moments with Vasu. And we open our hearts, no matter how sore they are, and we wonder at life and death together, while tears stain our faces and Vasu's absence seems so unfair and so unreal. It's as if he's here now. Maybe so. But welcome to this beautiful space that we now dedicate to honoring the life of Vasu Dev, seasoned with the love and memory of his beloved Barbara. Thank you for coming. You are welcome here. As a symbol of our faith, we light a chalice at each of our gatherings to represent the spirit, the values, and the rich history of Unitarian Universalism. Barbara and Vasu were dedicated to the inclusive and interdependent traditions of this faith, symbolized by the chalice and its flame. I invite Julie Steinbach and David Adams to come forward at this time to light our chalice and bring us the words of Reverend Kathleen McTeague.
I just want to add that Reverend Kathleen McTeague finished her ministerial career with the Unitarian Universalist Association as the founding president of the Unitarian Universalist College of Social Justice, which, among other things, sponsored just journeys to India, to our Holding program in India, which was started in the 30s and set up to serve the poorest of the poor. So Kathleen McTeague's presence here seems fitting. They are with us still. They are with us still in the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our work forward with us.
It is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived.
We share a history with those lives. We belong to their same motion.
They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might be to come.
Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared.
They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady.
Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts.
We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living.
Namaste.
We'll have a hymn now that was a favorite of Vasu and Barbara's. Stand as you're comfortable. Remain seated if you prefer. and the lyrics should be on the screen for you. It's a song that we all love, "We Would Be One." For those who know it well, we'll help the community by singing loud. Please be seated. I welcome to the pulpit Vasu's daughter, Nisha Abdul-Qadir.
One of these in case. It is truly an honor that my father is being remembered in such a space where the people enjoying the best practices in all religions. I ask the most able, the most loving, to take the knot from my tongue so that I may be understood. Sometimes the knot starts as a clot in my heart. It rises as a lump into my throat, and perhaps it manifests as a tear. My father came into this world and cried, lungs expanding with air, into a world of people fighting over land and power. My father left this world with lungs no longer able to expand with the air around him, and left a world of people fighting over land and power. My father was born when the Indian subcontinent was struggling for freedom from oppression, from colonialism, and internal conflict over identity. My father, as a young boy, was told by a neighbor, "Soon we will be living in your home." Brought up as a middle child of 11, he was a fulcrum to balance the family. My grandfather, an erudite and prolific Sanskrit scholar, a member of the Arya Samaj Hindu reform movement that strove for social justice and freedom from oppression. My grandmother, a soft, sweet, and steadfast cornerstone of the family. Recently, I was able to have more glimpses into the makings of my father as we were mulling over his varied passwords, because of course there was always something we had to figure out and get into, and he needed a little help. I'm not sure why he thought Hindi words would be something unknown to the IT community, but nevertheless, that's where he went. Some were related to the full moon. It was the Sanskrit name he had given to my mother. But there was one that caught my attention, and that was Karam Yogi. And I asked that, what does that mean to you? He said, that's someone on the path of karma yogi, someone who strives to do right, regardless of the outcome. The karma yogi performs actions with attachment to the results, dedicating one's work to a higher purpose and acting with a strong sense of duty. Yes, that is my father. The reflections of Hindi and Sanskrit led me to the tradition of great Sanskrit poetry of northern India, such as the 7th century Meghaduta, the cloud messenger of Kalidasa. This is where a cloud is asked to carry a message to a beloved. Or we often think of the epic Ramayana as Ram sends a secret message to Sita. In this poetic way, could I send a message of love to my mother and father? I would sit in the garden and I would whisper my message to the pond, the water carrying it to the summer blooming lily, who would tell the iridescent winged dragonfly to carry the words to the inquisitive blooming malti, the malti with their flower heads leaning down, and they would gossip to their neighbors, the new generation of doves that are living in the planter. The doves would take wing, would fly to the clouds, clouds that slowly pass over the full moon. The moon would sing to the constellation of 2 inseparable fish in the sky that would then eventually carry my message to an unseen realm. I would send a message of longing for the lines of our tapestry, anticipated yet left unwoven, along with a message of gratitude for the rich fabric made together with family, friends, and community. And perchance, through the grace of our Creator, the most loving, on a full moon night, the clouds would pass over the moon, the doves would be cooing in their nests, The dragonflies would be perched on the bird of paradise, the lily closed for the night, and the water of the pond still. Perhaps then I would receive a love letter in return that carries blessings and a reminder of the yarn that is yet to be woven in our tapestry. The message might reflect the words of Bulleh Shah, the classic Urdu poet who lived at the transition of the 16th and 17th centuries in what is now Pakistan. His writings represent him as a spiritual humanist, someone providing solutions to the sociologic problems of the world around him as he lives through it. He was describing the turbulence of his motherland of Punjab while he was passing through, while concurrently searching for God. Bulleh Shah's poem, One Thread Only, is a metaphor of unity amidst diversity. One thread only, warp and woof, quill and shuttle, countless cloths and colors. 1,000 shanks and skeins with 10,000 names, 10,000 places, but there is one thread only. The love letter response might be a reminder and an imperative to continue to weave our shared tapestry with responsibility, with kindness, with love, regardless of the outcome. My mother and father left this world of people fighting over land and power, despite great advances in technology, abundant food, and resources. But they left a world knowing there is responsibility, there is kindness, there is love. There is only one thread.
There is a centuries-old saying that reminds us there is no remedy for love but to love more. These words from our Unitarian ancestor, Henry David Thoreau, give us guidance as we try to find the right places to put the love that we would much rather be sharing with our beloved Vasu, rather than carrying it in our bones and feeling it ruminating with nowhere to go. But we bring our bones together here today, and we gather at this time in this sanctuary so familiar and beloved to both Vasu and Barbara, one of the favorite places for him and her. We gather here today to share the love with one another that we will always be honored to carry for Vasu, to help each other with our grief and to release the pressure valve of heartache for his family, especially Nisha, Rajan, and their families. We extend that love that we hold in this space, our place of belonging, to offer a blessing for their broken-hearted spirits as they integrate Vasu's death into their lives. I share Reverend Jan Richardson's words of promise in times of grief. And these are the words that she has named a blessing for the brokenhearted. Let us agree for now that we will not say that this breaking will make us stronger. And yet we also agree that it is better to have this pain and share this grief than to have never have met them or loved them, to have done without this love. So let us promise we will not tell each other or ourselves or one another that time will heal this wound, when every day of our waking opens it anew. Perhaps for us now it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart broken as ours are can go on beating, as if it were made precisely for this, as if it knows the only cure for love is more of it, as if it sees the heart's sole remedy for breaking is to love still, as if it trusts that its own persistent pulse is the rhythm of a blessing we cannot begin to fathom, but will save us nonetheless. Poet and activist Andrea Gibson must have had a lot in common with our beloved Vasu, because I could hear him quoting her words saying, "In the end, I want my heart to be covered in stretch marks." And I'm quite certain and feel confident you agree that Vasu stretched his heart enough over the years to cover it with the most beautiful stretch marks that were ever tattooed on a heart. As Vasu's heart was one of the softest, most colorful, stretchiest, and most unselfish to ever walk its way into any of our lives. And now his death is stretching our hearts. The cycles and the mysteries of life hold both birth and death, and we encounter them in so many ways if we're willing. Nature displays so many of the lessons that both life and death have to teach us, from the experience of every chemical reaction and its resolve, from the rising to the setting of the sun, from the tides that come in and out with such grace, and our beautiful moon that phases in and out every month without fail, and the new moon we stand in awe of this weekend. The story is in our very breath, and we inhale life just moments after birth, our very first breath, inspire. And at our death, we exhale our life as we expire. When a baby is born, there is a room full of caregivers and family holding their own breath, waiting for the newborn to inhale as life begins. And at the time of our death, for some who are fortunate, there's a room full of caregivers or grandsons and family, those at the bedside who tend to their own breath as their beloved one exhales and releases their spirit, the spirit of life from their body. Our culture tends to keep death at a safe distance, but when death comes near in the passing of someone that is so beloved, there's no more distance, and we enter it together with open hearts today, as we consciously and purposefully create this safe space to be together right in the midst of it. Here, among Vasu's beloved community, we can rest in the arms of one another as we offer and receive comfort. And we can safely embrace what loss feels like. And we share deep gratitude that his life will always bless ours. Because here we can engage with the lessons Vasu would want us to take away from this moment, to create new meaning, and to bring deep, purposeful change into our lives and through our lives into the world. He would ask us to hold hope. Hope that within this physical world there's a deeper life to be embraced, and more work to be done, and more love to be found and created. May it be so. Vasu's compassionate heart would ask us to continue to live in a way that serves others and liberates the oppressed in our world, to become our best selves, people of integrity, accountability, and character. May it be so. Vasu's love for life and his deep regard for this faith that centers on the unconditional acceptance of all faiths, braided together to strengthen each strand. He urges us to continue to be intelligent, funny, true, and kind, to do something to make a difference where we can, to touch others with simple, joyful awe of appreciation for community, for family, for learning, for respect, for love. May it be so. Vasu Dev made the world a better place, and all of our lives have somehow been made better because he lived alongside of us. And we may never be able to capture and express the full impact of his life on ours or on the world. Many of us are still learning more about him, and some of us are hearing parts of his story for the first time. Some will be blessed to walk with his memory and feel his presence in those spaces that were shared with him in the past. And we promise ourselves and each other that we will always remember him well. His life will continue to be expressed through every one of the lives that he's touched and loved and shaped. And we will always be warmed, awed, and grateful for the privilege of honoring him today. He will be remembered in many ways and for many reasons. For love, strength, courage, dedication, passion, intelligence, feistiness, and kindness. May we all live out our passions with that same force, allowing the aspirations of Vasu's life to become the inspiration of ours. Let me close with these words from poet Nancy Wood. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. And hold on to life, even when it is easier letting go. Hold on to my hand, even after I have gone away from you. Thank you, Vasu Dev. We honor you. We thank you. We love you.
I thought initially I would play the same song I played right here almost 6 years ago today for my grandma. But as I was preparing, can everyone hear me? Oh, good. As I was sitting at the piano yesterday getting ready, that's perfect, was thinking a lot about my grandpa's life and my grandparents' shared life together. And I was really inspired by the way that I felt they really found the true American dream in their love and their family and everything. So I ended up writing a little bit of song about that, so I thought I'd share that with you guys instead. All right. Big jet plane, chasing sun, chasing rain. Indian Ocean, calls far away. Landed in Davis, met a woman, fair and strange. Had chemistry, chose to share a last name. They planted flowers, planted roots. Traveled far and wide, Yosemite, the Badlands too, sugar cane and white sunshine. Tennessee, and then the coast, a dream in time. I think that they went looking for America, and they found it in California. Yeah, heaven can wait for this dream to take place. Everything's right in California. Had 210 kids that tussled in the sand and played rock and roll and in the high school marching band. Tends start to fade with each new memory made, but the smog rolls in just like the fog up in Pacific Grove. Now the kids grew up strong and smart, basically doctors and lawyers and such, and the world kept turning around and hair turned gray and pomegranates fell, and I think they went looking for America, and they found it in California. Yeah, heaven can wait for this dream to take place. Everything's right out in California. Say, take that Vanagon back to my place, and the mamas and the papas will play it as it lays, and the wallpaper's fresh, and the sweet peas in bloom, and the goldfish in the pond are new. Yeah, my grandparents built a life pure and true, looking for America, and they found it in California. So when the sun dips down towards the ocean blue, and two butterflies circle in a dance of two, I'll take it as a sign of a life well lived. When December comes to an empty house, I'll remember NBA static and New Year's crowns. And since that day, a love like theirs hasn't been found out in California.
Thank you so much. So lovely. We have a time of shared reflection from friends and family. We have two speakers who will be speaking to us from the college, from Pomona College. No. Boy, was that Freudian. I'm sorry. Dr. Philip Beecher. Thank you.
First, I want to know, can everybody hear me? Okay. So when I look at that picture, it reminds me of Dr. Dev's laugh, which he gave so freely to others in his life. Also, after that song, I'm going to need some of Nisha's strength. So I'm kind of old-fashioned. I don't have the text on the phone. We're all here because we had a special relationship with a remarkable man, Dr. Vasu Dev. Dr. Dev was a wonderful human being in so many ways, always gracious and generous, as a friend, a neighbor, a colleague, a teacher, a mentor. I'm grateful for the Dev family that provided this opportunity to share our stories and our many journeys with Dr. Dev. My name is Phil, and it was my good fortune to have shared a part in Dr. Dev's long, amazing life. Our journey started in 1974, almost 51 years ago, when I began my master's program at Cal Poly. I took Dr. Dev's organic spectroscopy class. I feasted on his problems, delightful puzzles with many hours of enjoyment for me. I still remember his final exam. He told me he put a special problem on just for me that he thought I would not be able to solve. And I was so happy when he told me I got it right. His course was the start of our long future collaboration. Dr. Dev got me a TA position, and I spent the next 2.5 years teaching all sorts of chemistry labs that helped build my chemical foundation and inspired me for my future career. I met my wife, Patty, in the very first lab I taught, organic analysis, and here we are married 48 years this September. Dr. Dev changed my goal from looking for a job to getting a PhD and becoming a college professor just like him. I went to UC Irvine, and I went much deeper into spectroscopy. I became our group NMR operator, which I would not have done without Dr. Dev's spectroscopy course. It was a big step towards Dr. Dev's and my future collaboration. Amazingly, a job opened at Cal Poly just as I was graduating. Somehow I got it. Suddenly, all my former professors were my colleagues, and Dr. Dev became Vasu. When I obtained a grant to purchase a high-powered NMR, Vasu and I had the magical instrument we needed to figure out organic structures. And suddenly, we were off on a 25-year research collaboration. Vasu would collect plant samples, sometimes from the foothills of the Himalayas in India, sometimes in Colorado, and sometimes in the Sierras, often with his wife, Barbara. Then he would separate the seeds, the stems, the flowers, and extract their oils in a very laborious process. And then he would separate out the individual compounds in yet another laborious process. He could identify 98% of the components with his magical Covat index. To accomplish all this, Vasu trained dozens of senior project students and master's students that helped him do all this research. He worked endless hours, showing his students every detail they needed to know. There were also collaborators and visiting researchers along the way. But Vasu was most excited about the structures he could not figure out. He would give those compounds to me, and I would run all sorts of NMR experiments, and together we would solve the structures. It was really great fun for both of us. For those special brand new structures, Vasu would write up the papers and all our names, and add all of our names, the students, the collaborators who helped, and me as co-authors. He was always very generous with the credit. Vasu and I would go over the papers many times before he sent them in. He was so meticulous, they were almost always accepted on the first submission. Vasu and I continued this pursuit even after we retired from teaching, and we had kept the fun going for many more years. Ultimately, new Cal Poly professors wanted his research space, and he had to give it up, and our incredible run came to an end. Along the way, there were many wonderful dinners at the Dev's home, where Barbara and Vasu treated us all to delicious meals and stimulating conversation. And I'm certain that Vasu would want me to add that Barbara was a Cal Poly chemistry colleague for 12 years. When Vasu closed down his lab, it was not the end of our friendship. My wife Patty and I, and often our colleague Dave Hayner, and sometimes other former students went out for lunch. Some of them are here. We would joyfully remember the good old days at Cal Poly and discuss various happenings in the world. Vasu loved to tell, and we loved to hear, his many stories about his amazing family. The way Vasu kept going made it seem like his journey would never end. But of course, it could not last forever, and here we are, celebrating the life of a great man. To all who had the privilege to know him, Vasu changed the path of my life, as I know he did so for many others. The world is a better place because Vasu was in it, and what better legacy could one ask for? Thank you, Vasu.
Mr. Josette Descalzo?
Good afternoon, everyone. Like Dr. Beecham, I put it on my phone. Hello, everyone. I'm Josette Descalzo, a former student, and most importantly, a very good friend of Dr. Vasu and Dr. Barbara Dev. I want to start by thanking Nisha and Rajan for allowing me to share a few words about Dr. Dev, but also appropriate to include your mom as part of my story. I couldn't believe that I first met Dr. Vasu Dev 25 years ago while taking a second quarter OChem chemistry class lab at Cal Poly Pomona. By that time, I was a fairly successful student before attending his class, so I enjoyed chemistry. I thought his lab class would be a breeze just like the previous ones. He explained to us his syllabus and grading scale. He did say we will be spending many hours completing his homework and study for his quizzes and tests. I said to myself, yeah, right. What would be so hard about it? Boy, was I wrong. Dr. Dev put me in a ringer with consecutive D's in my first few homework assignments and quizzes, and feeling defeated and sometimes calling him Dr. Dev ill. I felt humbled by this experience and went to his office hours to seek help. In my first few times at his office, he was no Dev ill. He was warm, kind, and eager to help me get better. He suggested, you got the concept. You may want to create a study group to learn and succeed in my class. And so I did, and the rest is history. I ended up getting a B at the end of the quarter. It was the best B grade I ever got at Cal Poly Pomona. A few years later, I met up with Dr. Dev again for a senior project. I was nervous if he would take me, but he did. It was this time that I got to know him and Dr. Barbara Dev in a personal level. I learned they love to travel, eat food, and connecting with family and friends all around the world. At a young age of 22 years old, I learned a lot about San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and entire state's nature and research of Lomatium lucidum plants and its cousin species. My senior project was such a great time. I learned a lot about myself because Dr. Dev got it out of me. I learned that listening, always learning, and hard work can bring personal success. However, working with others and sincerely wanting them to be your friend brings the best satisfaction in life. Dr. Dev is right. Now, around my midlife, I enjoy my life, good or bad, than ever before. Since our time at Cal Poly Pomona, I've remained close to the Devs. We've eaten plenty of times at Mexico Lindo in Pomona, daytime of course, people that know that story. Buca de Pepo and home-cooked meals at their home. Breaking bread, sharing about our views and times at Cal Poly and our beloved Lakers was all part of our conversation. Those times were also memorable that we had to stop Dr. Dev from opening another bottle of wine or stop at bottle number 2 of drinking his famous Bohemia beer. Dr. Dev and Mrs. Dev were at my graduation party. They also know my struggles and triumphs of my work. And they were at my wedding day, and they were so supportive, me going through my wife's medical condition. What I really want to share is that I feel so blessed to be loved by the Devs. They treated me as family. They cared for me when I was going through difficulties and joyous parts of my life. I also can say that I'm a better person because of them. I always express that feeling to the Devs every time we end our long phone calls. All I can promise to them now is to treat others with kindness and thoughtfulness, like how the Devs have done throughout their life. I promise to teach those same values to my friends, and I hope I can inspire people to be the same as the Devs. Nisha and Rajan, thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I hope all of us can keep the Devs legacy in our daily lives. Thank you.
Barbara and Vasu's grandson, Isa.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Isa, for those who I have not had the pleasure to have met yet. Thank you all for being here to honor and remember my grandfather and the beautiful legacy of excellence, resilience, and love that continues on through him, through us. I'd like to share just a few brief sentiments. Of course, no words can encompass a life as full as his, but really what I hope is that something here will remind you of your own memories and experiences with him. He was above all a family man, a devoted husband, a caring father, and a grandfather who loved us all very deeply. What stood out about him wasn't his grand gestures, but the way he lived each day with honesty, steadiness, and persistence. He gave far more than he ever asked for, and the strength of his presence was found in the small, consistent ways he showed up for the people that he loved. As we've heard a little bit about today, beyond family, many knew him as a gifted teacher and professor. He believed education could change lives, not just by opening doors, but by shaping the kind of person you became. He poured that belief into us, his children and his grandchildren, encouraging us in his studies and pushing us to see our own potential. And he made sure we knew how proud he was of each of us, sometimes by saying it outright, sometimes just in the quiet pride of his smile when he shared our accomplishments. One story that stays with me is from about probably 20 years ago. I can't quite put a date on it. When I was an elementary schooler visiting Claremont, my grandfather invited me to his chemistry lab on a weekend. But instead of just showing me his work, he told me he needed help with some experiments. I eagerly joined him in awe of the lab that I saw there and the chance to be a part of it. The help mostly involved tossing little bits of metal salts into a flame and watching them sparkle into brilliant yellows, blues, and purples. and I scribbled down notes on each one, taking it immensely seriously. I don't quite know how many years it took to pass before it dawned on me that this was not exactly an experiment, and certainly not one requiring the help of an 8-year-old. But that moment captures so much of who he was. He knew how to engage people, how to inspire wonder, and how to make learning joyful. As long as his children, grandchildren, students, and mentees continue to learn and pass that on to others, his legacy will live on. I have him and my grandmother to thank for igniting my own love of education, which they always so deeply supported. Their lives together were a testament to the power of teaching and the commitment to inspiring those who came after. In so many ways, I can't speak about my grandfather without also acknowledging the deep devotion he shared with my grandmother. Their life together was a model of love that was steady, resilient, and mutual. To see them together was to see partnership at its most faithful and enduring. Another lesson I learned from him was to always do things the right way. Perhaps it was his training as a chemist, or perhaps that trait is what made him such an excellent chemist in the first place. Even in the most ordinary tasks, everything had to be done with intention, attention, and precision. In recent years, when I spent more time in Claremont and eventually moved here, he could no longer do many of the activities himself that he used to take pride in independently striving for. But he would give me detailed instructions, and somehow, even if he was nowhere near where I was, he had this supernatural ability to know when I skipped a step. I could be rooms away washing dishes out of sight, and somehow the exact ratio of water running, the rhythm of the scrubbing, or the sound of plates being stacked, he knew I was wasting some water, or he knew I was rushing. In the garden, he'd inspect my work and offer discreet revisions until it was just right. Even when he could no longer move around easily, it was a ritual to do a daily inspection from his wheelchair, after which I would receive an itemized list of the changes he wanted to see. From the detailed records on his gas mileage to all the specifics of food preparation, and even to recycling and waste disposal, there was always a precise, intentional methodology. But it wasn't stubbornness. For him, details mattered because caring mattered. There was no task or act so trivial that it was below good intention. If you loved something, even the smallest act deserved to be done with excellence. He lived his life that way, with intention, with consistency, and with love that shone through everything he touched. Even as his health declined and his condition became increasingly difficult, he rarely complained, and above all, he never made himself out to be the victim of his circumstance. He bore his struggles with a quiet dignity that was remarkable to witness, as I am sure many of you saw. This was a pattern of resilience I saw throughout his life, from my first memories of him to my last. And in the end, during his final hours in the hospital, really some of the last things he gave me was reassurance. Despite all of the immense difficulty he was experiencing, he spent those last precious moments to remind me that everything was going to be okay. And he told me to remind my family that everything would be all right. That was the essence of who he was. He was a man who devoted his life to caring for others, teaching, and guiding those around him. And he continued that legacy of selflessness even until the end. Although we feel the weight of his absence, I was reminded while writing this of a brief excerpt from the poet Jalaluddin Rumi. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes. For those who love with their heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. His life reminds us that legacies are in the quiet shaping of lives. We carry him forward not just in memory, but in every moment we strive to live with the same honesty, persistence, and love that he embodied. In that way, he is not only a part of our past, but also a part of our future.
Jabril?
All right, thank you all so much for coming, and I pray that I'm able to speak with a fraction of elegance as my brother did, have a semblance of truth to my grandfather's memory. So I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about what I wanted to share with you all, because you each have such unique aspects of his life that you're blessed with and privileged with, that I'm looking forward to sharing over not just today, but the years to come in the future. But what I figured I would do actually is just start from when I was a kid, some of the memories I held with my grandfather and the moments that shaped me to be who I am. And it wasn't until recently that I really started to understand that the way that he was explains me to myself. There's so many little characteristics and traits that I would look to different aspects of my family and be like, where did it come from? Like, mom doesn't do this, dad doesn't do this. And I never stopped to think, maybe grandpa used to do this. I think first and foremost is that life is better in a Hawaiian shirt. That's through and through grandpa. That was something that I feel like I got the reputation as being the surfer kid. So always loved wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I think I come to realize it has nothing to do with surfing. It was because grandpa wore the Hawaiian shirt, and he looked so happy every time he did. He would lighten a room. I mean, you just look around the room right now, and the vibrancy of fabrics and colors and joy that's just brought by the clothes we choose to wear in a room. I think grandpa knew about that and what it would do to the people around him. The second thing was when I was a child, he and my grandmother had a profound love for the Rhodes Scholars Program. So they would go on trips all over the country to view these beautiful places with rich history, difficult history. And my brother and I went along with him to Yosemite Valley with him and my grandmother. All I remember is driving through just miles and miles of what I would come to understand was the valley of dry grass, and being in the Subaru Forester and listening to mixtapes of just lectures and classical music. And then in Yosemite, all I remember was green and trees. Nothing of the granite slabs, nothing of the mountains and the valleys that were what made it truly tremendous. But as I got older and as I was introduced to the Sierras by my wife, I came to understand a profound love for the mountains and a call to continuously return and to bring other people to that space. And so that's something else I learned from my grandfather, is to love the mountains, because the mountains will love you too. And I feel that through him. The other thing also has to do with Yosemite, and it's a story that my grandfather would tell me over and over again when he would just recall my grandmother and his affection for her, is that she was the type of person that they would be driving literally around the Sierras 50 miles per hour, and she'd say, Vasu, stop, 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 stop. Look at the flower we just passed. I don't know anyone else for most of my life that would say, we'd be driving at 55 miles per hour or on a mission to do something, say, stop, let's look at the flowers. Until I met my wife. And I realized that my attachment to her makes so much sense in the context of grandpa. She does this all the time where she'll just be like, we'll be on a walk, on a hike, like, look at this, it's the cutest flower ever, appreciate it. And I'm like, this is like grandma. This is like what grandpa loved about grandma. And so I've learned to love someone who stops to smell the flowers. Going out of your way to help people. My grandfather was the person that moved me into my college dorm. Probably doesn't make sense to pick someone who can't help you move the mini fridge and all your clothes and stuff, but he was there and he cheered me on. And he made me feel safe going into a new environment with people I didn't know in a space I was unfamiliar with. And so going out of your way to help people was something that I learned from my grandfather. We talked about mass spectrometry. You guys all know the stories, but he was a teacher. So taking the time to explain things to people who didn't understand things and being gentle, being generous with your time. I had the privilege of, when I was in organic chemistry, him taking the time to teach me. He would Zoom me and lecture me about how to, for those who don't understand what mass spectrometry is, basically it's like you take a compound that's unknown, blasting it with energy and breaking it into microscopic pieces, subatomic pieces, that you then analyze those energy levels to figure out what it is at its basis. And my grandfather had the patience to sit with me time and time again to do this. So I learned from my grandfather to be patient with people. I thought it was kind of funny because as my brother was describing, he was meticulous. He wrote everything down, from the gas mileage to the gas prices to the recipes. Everything had to be done perfectly. And I think back to myself, and there are many times in my life where I would just go at something with reckless abandon. There was times that I literally drove 6 hours in the middle of the night to return keys to my wife because I wanted to see her more than I could have just put it in the postmail and she would have come back a day later. But I was like, let me drive 6 hours in the middle of the night after a day shift. And I'm like, who does that? No one in my family does that. Until I remembered my grandpa did that. He drove across the country to go see Barbara. He drove across the country by himself without any kind of cell phone or anything for the sake of love. And so he taught me to go at love with reckless abandon. And the last thing I want to talk about is he taught me an aspect of elegant masculinity. Nowadays, young men, old men, all of us are taught different realms of what it means to be a man. And it's been convoluted and it's been muddied. But I think my grandpa had a beautiful example of what an elegant masculinity looks like. That includes smelling the flowers, that includes planting the flowers and tending to your garden. It includes eating slowly and having small portions and being a humble person. It includes doing your stretches in the morning. And so I learned from my grandfather elegant masculinity. And I look forward to continuing to learn about myself through my grandfather in the years to come. I look forward to my siblings and my children learning about their grandfather through me as I step into those phases of my life. So thank you all.
And now the reflections from a son's heart. As Rajan comes to speak.
How's everybody doing? Yeah, well, I feel like we didn't coordinate our remarks for today, but I feel like so far it's just been a lovely tapestry coming together. And that was beautiful what you said, Nish, and everybody, thank you so much. As I think about my remarks for today, they're pieces in what everybody else said, so clearly our experiences are all coming together. After we're finished and we're in the reception, we have photos which in such a funny way punctuate so many of the stories you heard today, and you'll be like, oh, that's what that looked like when he said that. Okay. At any rate, I'll get started. Thank you all for coming. Some of you have come from very far away to be here in person. Thank you. Yes, thank you, thank you. And some of you are halfway around the world. It might be the middle of the night, 2 in the morning in India right now, maybe almost 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And you came by Zoom. Thank you. For some of you, it's hard to get around. Thank you for being here, because it's hard. I'm sure that Dad and Mom are with us today. I really am. I feel them here in this space. And I know that they are touched by your presence and your memories of them, and that gives it power. And I'm so glad that we're all here together. So, I'm Rajan Dev. I'm Vasu and Barbara's son, Nish's brother, and I look forward to sharing a few memories and thoughts about Dad. I notice how much I miss him in these moments when I think, I'm just going to call Dad and ask him about this or tell him about that, and I'm reminded that I can't have those conversations with him out loud. But I can have them with him in my heart. And I feel this from all of you, because it's where so much of him is imprinted. He's with us. But I still miss him. I am thankful that he was able to live to be 92 years old, that he was able to live in his house. He was mentally sharp on his own terms up until the very, very end. When I think about Dad, I think about how disciplined he was. I think Isa picked up on some of that too. He was also very adventurous, and he had an extreme commitment to building and maintaining relationships with family and friends. And as we talked about, he loved to laugh, and experience with him, he loved to laugh. He and Barbara complemented each other so well, as Barbara could start a conversation and connect with anyone. Well, Vasu would also think about people's interests very deeply, but he would make sure that they could stay in touch in his Cal Poly calendar that he carried around and had everything that he needed, as he would send family updates and thoughtful letters to all of these people he connected with. Dad's experience with undergraduate chemistry and the advisor that he had said so much about him. And in spite of a comment like, "You will never be a chemist," and you probably saw that in the document, Vasu persevered. He still tested well and ultimately excelled in the discipline. As a middle schooler interested in sports, I was so impressed with him when it started to sink in that Dad got up at 5:30 or 6 most mornings and would exercise, including calisthenics and jogging around Claremont, every day. Every day he did something. One time, I took him up on his open invitation to come along, and I found myself working very hard to keep up. It's like, okay, we're gonna run around Memorial Park a few times. Okay, are we done yet? Usually, I'd make it out for a couple of days in a row before I chose more morning sleep, but he was always out there. For those of you who got to enjoy his cooking or cook with him, he was meticulous about his recipes. His ingredients and the connection to the food he loved, especially the food cooked by and with his family and mother when he was in India. He was also very disciplined about his gardening, always anticipating the coming season and making sure his plants and trees were well cared for. I don't know how he did it, but that pomegranate tree in front of the house, right, Asha, made magic perfect pomegranates. To this date, I don't think I've ever had pomegranates as sweet and rich as the pomegranates that came from his tree. And it said everything about him. I don't know how he did it. There is nothing else out there like him. He was adventurous. I often think about Dad's decision to come to UC Davis to study. Not only was he leaving family and friends behind, he received very mixed signals as different family members had very different perspectives on what he should do. Some thought it was a great opportunity, and others thought he was crazy. But then once he committed, he flew on Super Constellation aircraft with something like 10 stops over 2 or 3 days to complete the journey. And in our photo book, I found some pictures of it that he, or maybe his brother Brum, had taken that are really wild to kind of think about that experience and what he went through. In context, of course, air travel of this type was so new. Not long before, his only option would have been a multi-week journey by ship. Right? I don't think he liked traveling, but he did love to travel. In his first year in the US, he drove across the country with one of his colleagues and made multiple trips to Lake Tahoe and the High Sierra. And with our mom, Barbara, their marriage began with a 6-month trip around the world, a wedding in India, and this was just imprinted on me for this moment, which is a number of you here in the room. I'm thinking about you, Chachachi, and you over and other people on Zoom were there, right? And they followed this up by regular trips to India and exploration of both the southern and northern hemisphere. Once they purchased their VW van again, they were able to camp and collect plants all over the Southwest. And now you know a little bit about that adventure, right? And this was the dynamic between my parents, which is they got to know most of the rangers everywhere by name as they requested special permits to allow them to collect the plants. And with this activity, Barbara would start a conversation and really get to understand what's going on and who was what and where we should eat and get invited over for dinner. And Dad would take it all in, but then he'd also make sure that all the paperwork and the processes were followed perfectly. So they were the best guests to our state park system that you could ever ask for. When Barbara was teaching at Webb School, she connected with her colleagues, as she was wont to do. She always wanted to understand what was going on, what was important, and discovered that a pair of elephant tusks were at the school. Yeah, elephant tusks. And had been captured from another school in Canada as a prank by students. Now, who would be crazy enough to do something like that today, right? You'd end up in jail immediately, right? However, the faculty was at a loss on how to properly return the tusks. Barbara and Vasu agreed to reverse smuggle them on a trip to Canada. Yes, this is true. It's a fact. In the Vanagon with the license plate RLEPHANT. Yes, we have pictures of that. Of course, they had documents describing their activity with the contraband, but I think they were both so keen on the adventure and doing something that felt a little bit daring. And it was who they were. Really just an amazing moment and said so much about who they were. On several occasions recently, I've thought about the past years with what Dad was faced with and how he moved through it. A little over 6 years ago, many of us were here saying goodbye to Barbara after her battle with ovarian cancer. This was really hard for all of us, and especially hard on Dad, both mentally and physically. Only a few months later, so that was October of 2019, COVID arrived and affected our lives in many unforeseen and often tragic ways. Just at a time when Dad needed more and new connection and support, connection in the world became even harder than it ever had been. Throughout this time, I'm so thankful, and we are so thankful for family and friends keeping that connection. Sunil and Chachaji, your daily book club calls meant the world to him. Getting to be a teacher, brother, and friend, it made him so happy. It really did. Even when he was arguing with you. And I hope the same was true for you. Dad was so thankful to be part of this Unitarian Universalist congregation, and your love and support were part of his sustenance. Magda, Vicky, and David, I don't know if David is here. Your friendship, care, and support made it possible for him to be independent and to be 100% mentally in tune. He and we cannot thank you enough for all that you did, do, and have done. Thank you. His Cal Poly community and neighbors, Sonia and Andrew, Hayden, Rose, Mary Jean, and Dick, were all part of his fabric of life that made life both possible and worth living. Thank you. And Isa, I can't imagine how disorienting this time has been for you, just deciding to be with him. But, and I think you know it too from what you said, I do know that your presence that last night when he went to the hospital was so appreciated. He was at ease. We knew it. Thank you. Vasu and Barbara had a very special relationship, and I believe in my heart they have now begun their new adventure together. I know how much Vasu and Barbara cherished all of us here and how much we cherished them. Thank you all for coming together today and for celebrating the life of our father, Vasu Dev. He touched so many of our lives in important and profound ways. He will be missed. Thank you.
Many indigenous cultures hold that the rituals created and celebrated by those who love and honor us in the days just before or following our death allow for a sacred attending, a witnessing, a smoothing of one's journey into the land of the ancestors. However, rituals around death are becoming less common in our culture. Cremations have increased in popularity, and shared ceremonies in the home or at the graveside are often delayed and held long after one's passing, if at all. So, with so many changes in culture, especially those surrounding our end-of-life ceremonial practices, we find great meaning in the experience of a communal practice as we enter into a sacred ritual that honors our beloved one at the time of their death. I invite you to please join the Dev family as we come forward in ritual silence to honor our personal expressions of farewell to Vasu with the sprinkling of flower petals into the basin provided. It will represent the offerings of our blessing on his journey upon the sacred waters of eternal life. The family will begin. Thank you. Beautiful. As you are comfortable, I invite you to stand as we read together our unison committal. The words will be on the screen, but you also have it on your program. Stacy. We begin. Vasu, your life we honor, your departure we accept, your memory we cherish. In grief at your death, in gratitude for your life and for the privilege of sharing life with you, we commit your body to the earth, we commit your memory to our hearts, and we commit your very being to the divine mystery of the eternal. And if you remain standing, we will close with Vasu and Barbara's favorite hymn, Blue Boat Home. And again, those who know it well, sing out loud. And my blessing and benediction for you is a prayer that may the power of love protect you. May the light of love guide you. May the comfort of love support you and continue to unfold you. For wherever we are and wherever we go, love is. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. And the Dev family invites you to stay for a light reception at the close of our service.